just a little housekeeping, because I've got like one strange random empty seat, and this is a bit odd. And we've got people on the floor. If you have an empty seat next to you, raise your hand. Anyone? Okay, hi floor people. These are seats, they're awesome. Right, okay, moving on. Hi, my name's Laura. I run a small security startup, if you like that word, called SafeStack. You can find me on the Twitters. In fact, I encourage you to come find me on the Twitters, and let's have a bit of a conversation around this talk. The underscore in the Twitter handle is really important. The real lady nerd gets a little bit upset. So please remember underscores. So I'm a security presenter, and as such, I have an obligation to tell you the world is a pretty terrible place. It's a dark pit of despair in which we fight over pretty much everything, particularly if it involves ponytails, I'm told. The internet is a festering cesspool of toxic waste in which we conduct 90% of our daily life, because checking your phone and Twitter when you first wake up in the morning is the most crucial activity we've learned, behaviorally speaking. And kittens are sad because of this. Somebody wants to do bad things to your computer right now, right this second. In fact, who's got a computer with them? Hi. Yeah, so the person sat next to you, do you know them? Just a question, unrelated. The security situation is beyond hope. We are ultimately screwed. We can all pretty much call it a day. Phew. Right, now that feels really unnatural to me, because I'm a slightly unusual security person. I have spent the best part of a decade doing really bad things to really fundamentally nice people. I'm a professional liar, penetration tester, breaker of physical security. And I weave security into some of the fastest moving development life cycles we have in the country, and in fact in the ASPAC region. Because you see, the thing is, we can do frickin' amazing things. I'm not going to build an amazing thing. I am not Elon Musk. I am not that kind of innovative, bright, future world person. But I want to be around those people. They're doing amazing things. Look what they're doing in Minecraft. This is a game that we turned into an entire environment, and now we teach our children using it. We decided smashing atoms together at high speed was a great idea, and we built a lot of software, a hell of a lot of software to help us do it. Oh, and then we thought automated driving was a great idea. Now, I'm a security person. I find these things fascinating. Tesla Model S is going to have automatic highway driving soon. How many are you excited about this? Yeah, come on, cars are driving themselves. How many of you are terrified by this? Yeah. We are living in a world where we are 50% of the time terrified of the exciting thing that's coming around the corner. I don't know whether we should be happy and laughing or crying. Doing security is hard, right? If you're in charge of writing the software for a self-driving car, you are pretty stressed out right now. You know, everyone on the planet is watching RSACon or Black Hat or any of these hacker conferences and watching people come on stage and go, I just broke your baby. Security is hard. How many of you think doing security in your own applications is hard? How many of you wish you didn't have to care about this crap? Yeah, QQ. I'm here to tell you, harden up. Seriously, you got over the fact you needed to care about performance. You got over the fact that deploying was a really tedious, hard thing that was really manual. And then you invented amazing processes and tool sets to let you do it. So let's not keep putting security in the naughty child corner. Let's just do it. Good adventures are supposed to be hard. If it was a silly, easy adventure, everyone would be doing it. There would be a Disney store there. We wouldn't want to go anymore. So if we're going to do awesome things with our code, let's do it securely, hey? Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to do security. Stop waiting for someone to inject the knowledge into your brain like some giant universal message has come. This is yours, every single one of yours adventures. Every last one of you is a security professional, whether you damn well like it or not. So let's get started. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for getting through your life cycle and actually doing security in it. I'm not a magician. I'm not here to say, ta-da, SQL injection, ta-da, cross-site scripting, ta-da. No, you're not going to get anything from that. You can go to YouTube. That's what YouTube is for. I'm going to give you skills that you're going to look at the screen and go, that's easy. I already do this. And I'm going to call rubbish on this. Because I have numbers and maths and experience. So let's go through it. Let's talk about preparing ourselves. Security is built on a foundation of education. How many of you have ever sat through a course or read a book on security? Yeah, a few of you? How many of you felt like at the end of it you knew enough to get started? Yeah, not as many of you. Security education is kind of your responsibility. There are tons of really good talks, really good books out there, and I really encourage you to go out there and find them. Troy Hunt, who was here last year, did a really, really engaging talk on security. And his stuff and his blog is a fantastic read. There is a ton of material. Go and read it. You need a training montage, in effect. You need to go and get all of this done. And you need to do it together. You do not want one hero on your team that is, oh, yeah, that's the person that knows security. Yeah, they do it. They do our security code review. They know all of our bugs. They know the design. It's them. Because guess what? That person is like so much more employable than you are right now. So don't make one person on your team super employable by every other organization in the country. Make yourself super employable. Go forth, build a whole team of security people, security hybrids, security ops hybrids, security development hybrids. So Josh just did an amazingly interesting talk on design. And we've seen really good talks on design so far today about responsive designs, about microservice architectures. Now, do you remember the days where you formally learned any of this stuff? Some of you went to university and studied how to build software. How many of you remember learning how to design software? Yeah? Yeah, how many of you consciously avoid designing your software before you write it? Because writing code is more fun. It's okay, the design will figure itself out. Oh, cute. Not really, it won't. Now, I'm going to tell you to be flexible with this. You won't know all of the answers up front. Please avoid the challenges that Josh has been discussing of over-designing yourself into problems. But really, you should know what direction you're headed. You want to draw that map well in advance, and you want to examine all of the options, because it turns out designing good software, particularly in rapidly moving environments, is quite hard. And there's going to be different ways you can do it, different languages you can do it. And the days of us having to do one language and all of our architecture is in one language are dead. There is no reason to not choose the right tools for the right job and explore those options. But then remember that you might actually have to take the tough decision and look at your design and go, actually, there's too much risk here. It's going to link onto a little bit later. I'm going to controversially say that you should take the road well-traveled. We live in a society that says that startups and innovators are the cool thing. They're the people who roll around in fat wadges of money all day. I'm going to tell you, for a security point of view, there's a lot to be gained by looking how other people have done things well. Now, we've seen all over the presentations of various conferences, we see great designs and we see horror stories of what didn't work. Go and find someone else's footsteps to follow in for your security designs. And if you can't find someone, find other people who've gotten it wrong a few times too. You need to know where to look for this direction, right? You can't just walk up to a meetup and go, hi, I work for a bank, and we don't really know how to do banking software. Anyone want to share? That's kind of a faux pas. Can be challenging. I also recommend don't do this on Stack Overflow. I do a lot of code review, and I can spot it a mile away, people. Don't copy-paste the Stack Overflow. That's not your guiding light. But find these people. Find the people talking at conferences. Then find the people asking them really intelligent questions, and go talk to those people too. Follow them on Twitter. Follow them in the news. Follow people you know locally. Find your peers. And then do what is hardest for us to do as developers. How many of you have ever written code where you go, oh my God, this is the ugliest thing on the planet. Nobody on the earth needs to see this. It's fine. Yeah? Okay, right. Yeah, your ugly baby code, it needs to have someone to look at it. And you need to find someone who's not afraid to say, I love you as a person, but your baby is ugly. Code review, peer review is incredibly important, and it hurts like hell. You get that sick feeling in your stomach, you know, particularly when someone like me walks in and I go, I'm going to review your code, and they go, oh my God, don't look, don't look. Your code is a challenge. You're writing hundreds of thousands of lines of code over your career. Some days you're doing perfectly well, you're firing on all cylinders. Some days you've had a really bad day, and you get distracted halfway through, and you're not really thinking this through properly. Or you've taken on a challenge that was too big or too hard. Open yourself up to scrutiny. Everyone needs it. This is how we get better, and it's how security bugs go away. This is just common sense, right? Then I want to tell you to build amazing machines. We saw robots playing earlier. How many of you thought robots were amazing? Yeah? Oh, come on, the rest of you. Where were you? Seriously. Robots and automation. Automation is a fabulous thing, and I love it as a security person. I want you to build these amazing machines. I want you to build automated deployment systems, whether you use Docker or Vagrant, Ansible, Chef, I don't care. The debate of what tool you're going to use is an irrelevant distraction. What I'm looking for is the principle. I'm looking for you saying, this part of my job is tedious and boring, and I make mistakes when I'm bored, so I'm going to automate it, and then I never have to do it again. Because when you don't have to do it again, you won't make security mistakes. You won't make many types of mistakes. And I want you to do this for everything. How many of you, your organization purports to do testing? Aha, that's not a good start. Normally I get like lots of hands, and then I sink you down. Right, okay, well, we're pretty screwed to begin. So I've heard this testing thing exists. We might want to do it. Automated testing is a freaking amazing thing. You really want to be getting in on this. But it's daunting, right? Because you've got code coverage with like 5% test coverage. And that 5% is, does this method even exist? You know, your tests are a shill because it made you feel better. You had a test. Go automate your testing. Get so much test automation that you know when it's failing, and then go and break it intentionally to check that your test automation picks it up. How many of you use any kind of immutable architecture or know what that term even means? All right, yeah, all right. So an immutable architecture is one that does not change. You do not get your hands dirty in your servers anymore. Now, somebody very crudely described it to me as the difference between pets and cattle, that old school server maintenance was creation of pets. It was your favorite thing. You named it, you dearly tended to its needs, and eventually it sadly got sent off to a farm. With cattle, it's a slightly more brutal existence. You don't tend and nurture it. It doesn't go to live on a farm. I'm not going to fill in the gaps. You know what happens to cattle. You want your servers to be destructible. You want, if you need to reconfigure them, to reconfigure your build and pop it back up again. Do you know why? Because then you can build 50 of them that are identical. That way you know that if your server goes all red lights in the middle of the night, that if you have to rebuild it, you're not trying to remember what Joe, that intern, did that one time that got this thing working. You don't have to remember 50 people's actions and layer them up on top of each other because you've got one build. Off you go. This isn't just a security thing, but security, you'll start seeing, weaves into all of the things that just make good operational practices. Turns out we're not special snowflakes. We are technical people who just see things in a slightly more colorful light. So we want to use your exact same tools. Now, I want you to also watch your back. Well, watching your back can be quite challenging. What do I mean by watching your back? How many of you are here with friends? Yeah? How many of you know nobody else in the room? How many of you can name everyone in your organization? Yeah. I've worked places where there were people coming and going so often I had no clue, and I pretty much just said, hey, friend. We've all been in those situations. We need to stop trusting everyone so much. How many of you stole anything from someone today? No one? Okay, well, a few hours left, just saying. Don't do crime. Know everything you need to know about an environment, everything you can know about an environment. So I go in and work with logging systems. I love logging systems. I love data. I'm a bit of a data nerd. Now, when we're software developers, we're used to looking at server access logs or error logs or these nice little pots of data. Great, fantastic. And in fact, Raygun and all of these companies are doing fantastic things, giving us these big pots of logging data. But security is about much, much more than that. Every item in your infrastructure has a potential to log. And loads of them have hidden security features in that. For example, if you take in a MySQL database, a slow query log. Do you know why I like slow query logs? When I'm trying to look at someone attacking a database and successfully doing it, do you know what takes a lot longer than a standard select? A standard select where you're pulling back the entire contents of your database. That takes a bit longer. Turns out, if you use your slow error log, you can look for queries that probably shouldn't be happening. But we don't look at those as security logs. We look at them for debug. We look at them because a performance problem has come. I want you to look at all of the logs in your environment and go, is there a security thing about this? Is there something we could learn about this? If there was somebody doing a bad thing right now, would it show up here, and what would it look like? I want you to use clever tools to do this. Now, there are some really expensive versions of these, and there are some open source ones. For those of you who are new in the log aggregation and playing with your log space, go look at Elasticsearch and Kibana and the free open source tools you can actually use to pull your logs in a vaguely sensitive and easy to use fashion. Use tools that already exist. Don't write your own, unless you're GitHub. They seem to write amazing monitoring tools. I had an envy of debug tools in the earlier talk. Don't write your own, though. Use some that are already out there and get it in place quickly. Don't faff over which tool, just get it in there. And then ask questions about the tools where somebody has spent a lot of money to get it in there. How many of you have an application behind a web application firewall? No? Anyone know what a web application firewall is? All right, okay, awesome. Well, so many of your organizations, not the developers, will have spent around $100,000, probably, on a web application firewall. And it's a very clever device that sits on the edge of your network between your web server and the general public. And it looks at all the requests coming into a web application. It tries to determine which one is evil and which one is good. That's not a particularly known science. How many of you work on applications that you know have a little bit of noise around them, may not be as best engineering practice as they should be? Yeah, so these devices tend to go in, and they go in very quickly on really enthusiastic budgets, and they go, right, awesome, we have a device. Now, they're what I call pretty pipes at that point. They're $100,000 worth of Cat5 cable because they're in debug mode or training mode, which means that they're looking at your traffic, but they're not doing a lot with it. Now, it takes a little bit of time and effort to actually tune these things down. Now, it's alarming that no developers in this room, with the exception of one or two faces out there, know what this is. Do you know why? Because you know who the best people to tune a web application firewall and say what traffic is legitimate is? The people who write the damn code. How is an ops person going to tell you if this request to a JSON web service is valid or not? How are they going to do it? They can't do this. They have none of the contextual knowledge. So go to your organizations, go find out if these devices are here, and if they aren't being tuned, go help tune them. I've been in organizations where they are getting 67,000 requests a day on a web application firewall that are going untouched because the firewall doesn't know whether it should care or not. And these are just being ignored and let through. That's a very simple thing you could fix. Other things you could fix, you could bring that data into your aggregated logging. How many of you have centralized logging for performance and user metrics, that kind of thing? Yeah, a few of you. I know the Vend crew are doing it pretty well. If you ever want to see an example, go check those lot out. Why aren't we including the security logs in there? Security people don't need this siloed information on their own. If you've got your performance logs coming in, get your security logs in at the same time. You'll very quickly hate it and not enjoy the amount of data you have. But do you know what that makes you do? Go fix it. Don't get surprised when you get attacked. Most of security is actually about survival. It's not about fixing all the holes. You can't do it. Know when things look suspicious. have things in your environment. If you're using AWS, there are many sophisticated little things you can do that will tell you things are awry. Put them inside your environment. Look at your Git. Make sure that, if a commit is made to a sensitive bit of code, that you know something has changed here. You should be aware at every point of something that could change your information security risk. And unfortunately, this isn't something you're going to go home, spend 2 weeks on it, and yay, job done, don't need to care anymore. I wish. That'd be lovely, right? But this is a long game. If every little day you change a bit of your security behavior, you're going to do awesome things, but you have to keep doing it for a very, very long time. It's a miracle there's any security people left, because we know where the bodies are buried for many, many organizations. We've been doing this a long time because the threat is constantly getting worse, and because we're seeing the problems time and time again. As developers, you're at the start of this. What you need to do is pace yourself into it and start getting your skills up. Start doing little bits each day. And I want you to watch for spies. Who's the biggest threat to your organization right now? That'd be you. Hi. You, humans, insiders, are actually massive threat, but they're not sexy. I can't say the cyber insider. It doesn't get funding. The people who are going to cause the most security problems to your application in the short-term future are all of you. And that's not because you're bad engineers. You're amazing engineers. You're doing wonderful things. It's because we are human, and building complex systems is hard. So make sure you know who's in your environment and don't trust anyone, which is kind of a bit of a destructive message, I will admit. You can buy cakes every now and again and stuff, but don't trust them. Protect the code, protect your systems. Always have an escape route. I have some rather interesting employers in my background, and I'm very good at escape routes. But for many of us, we don't ever consider, if this all went really horribly wrong tomorrow, what would we do? In fact, how many of you have ever heard of an incident response plan? How many of you have actually ever been involved in testing one? Yeah, a few of you. Normally, it's the infrastructure team that get to test it, and they simulate. Well, the developers will say this, and marketing people, I'll be the marketing person today, and I'd say, we need to email the customers. Good work, team. Do you know who the best people to answer these questions are? Developers and marketers, right? Why is this a surprise to people? Your incident response plan is the way that we communicate what to happen if it all goes wrong. What to do if we have to have a backup. Backups and recovery sounds really trivial, right? We're used to, you stick it on a disk somewhere, you put it in a cupboard, if you need it, you get it back. But backups are really crucial. And it's not just about having backups, it's knowing they're going to come back up. It's knowing how to actually get them back from wherever they are. This is a security thing. It definitely is. Because if you're compromised, it might be you have to revert back to a previous point in time because there has been damage done. You have to get past looking at your current code base as is and revert to a safe time. And to do that, you need a variety of backups. You've got to be prepared to action it. We've talked earlier about on-call systems where developers own their code for long periods of time, in fact, until it dies a horrible death. I strongly, strongly agree with this point. Security is one of those fields where it isn't going to be the second your code releases that you see a security problem. It's going to be some crazy edge case. It's going to be that time that somebody tweeted about your app and just one random, lonely, curious person decided to poke it in a strange way. So be prepared and test these things so that when they come in the middle of the night, you know what to do. Just a top tip, 2 things. How many of you use AWS? Yep, OK. Snapshots, awesome backups, right? You've all gone, yeah, I do backup snapshots, right? How many of you back them up to the same account? The rest, there's some liars in this room. Some liars. If you are doing backups, do not put them in the same account that you signed up with. What happens when you put them in the same account? Everything goes bye-bye. Everything. Now, am I basing this on speculation? No, this is what happened to a source code repository in the last 12 months. They didn't just lose all of the source code repos in their live instance, they lost every backup that they ever had that isn't just a really bad day. That's go and find a new job. I personally hate job hunting. And protect your treasure. If I got you to shout out valuable things in your organization, what's valuable? Code. Meh. Passwords, data, yeah? We've got this whole mental list of what's precious. I promise you don't know where all of it is. When we're systems engineers and designers, we plan around these structured data stores, like databases, or an in-memory cache, or there's something that we have constructed and designed and built that has our data in. Really sorry, people use your systems. That means that your nice data is coming from really strange places and ends up in places you have no idea it's there. How many of you have written a tool that has a comment field or a free text field in it? Yeah? Any of you? Yeah? How many of you were surprised at what ended up in that field? Yeah? So free text field is generic speak for, I like putting credit card numbers here. Yeah? Please help me. Here's everything of my life for the last 10 years. Please help. Free text fields solve problems because we can't give dedicated fields to every field. We can't anticipate it. But watch for sensitive data, because those free text fields put very sensitive data where we're not expecting it. Our users, our customer support people, they are putting copies of our data in places we're not expecting it. It's ending up in Dropbox. It's in pieces on paper. Actual paper still exists. And value is relative. Now, it's quite easy for you to go, it's a banana and some cartoon jewels, but imagine real jewels, because I'm a bit poor. Which one's more valuable? Yeah, jewels normally. You can buy a lot of bananas with jewels, so I'm told. I don't know. But the problem is, value is only relative to a need. If you are super, super hungry, that banana is the most valuable thing in your world right now. You can't eat jewels, doesn't end well. So when you're looking at protecting your data, don't just go, oh, well, this is a customer database. It must be the most important thing we have. Go through every bit of data you have and go, right, who is this important to and why do they want it? What's the value in this data? Because that's how we get to plan our protections, because we can't protect everything. And secure data starts with secure storage. Now, I'm not here to air the sins of people I've worked with, organizations I've worked with. But let's do a poll. How many of you use Dropbox for work purposes? Yep, Google Drive, OneDrive, GitHub, Subversion, Facebook. Not kidding you, genuine document storage for an organization via a Facebook group. Yeah, now clearly we all are entitled to our opinions, but that one's just wrong. Secure data storage is about making good choices. There are really good, secure, encrypted choices out there, but you have to analyze them. You have to decide on them carefully. You can't just go, well, it was free, and they gave me an easy account, and yeah, job done. You can't trust them just because they're a big American company. There are some amazing big American companies, just to caveat that. But they're very good at marketing. Always ask, is this encrypted? And who has the keys to that encryption? Is it encrypted all of the time or just in certain circumstances? Who else has access to this? I'm not going to get into the mire that is data sovereignty and who can access your servers. Seriously, go find a board lawyer. But you need to think about these things. Putting your data in a secure environment is step one, right? Now about passwords. I could give you the standard speech, you know, what is a secure password? Well, a secure password is lowercase and uppercase, special characters and numbers. Aha, right, so straw poll. How many of you know that you have room for improvement with your password management skills? Aha. How many of you are using password managers right now? How many of you are using a shared account with someone else? How many of you know the password to a system you shouldn't know the password to? Aha. How many of you have a password that has been the same for a decade? Aha. Yeah, so I'm going to go with it that the message for passwords may be getting out there and we're all willingly ignoring it. Do you know what I'm going to say to you? Turn on two-factor authentication like it's a plague and it needs to infect every part of your life. Then take away accounts, left, right, and center, because you don't need to care about passwords if people don't have an account. Then I'm going to tell you to use password managers, because they're just a good idea. Yes, there's a risk. Come and have the boring conversation with me later, and we'll talk about that. Passwords are a really horrible challenge. We haven't invented a better solution yet. But if you're writing an application, how many of you want to write an authentication system? How many of you think that would be fun? OK. Yeah, special. Right. For everyone else, use OAuth. Use someone else's authentication system. It's not going to be applicable for all of you. But where you have the flexibility to do it, do you know why we do this? Because the people who run OAuth systems like Google and Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, they have giant security teams, and they have been pounded to within an inch of their life by penetration testers and vulnerability hunters. You do not have the time and resource they do. If you don't want to write or have to write your own authentication system, don't do it. Use a trusted one that has been really rigorously tested. GitHub has been rigorously tested in recent weeks for denial of service protections. You know, there are reasons we use these big ones. They, unfortunately, are bearing the brunt of these kind of attacks and learning so that we can use what they've learned. And all of our systems need gatekeepers. I wanted to put like a Ghostbusters image here of like, I am the gatekeeper, I am the keymaster, and I was like totally chickened out. I totally should have done it. How many of you have got an account just because you're senior to someone else? How many of you have given an account to your boss just because he asked and he was really scary, or she was really scary? Yeah? I've seen organizations where the CEO by default gets given admin on every system as a respect. That's not a good plan. Buy him a pot plant and a plaque. You know, don't do this. You need to be ruthless with your accounts. Production environments, for example, are supposed to be restricted environments. Not everyone should be able to get on. When we say continuous deployment, we don't mean every developer is actually logging into that box and changing things. We mean one permission-given build agent is allowed to connect under certain circumstances and change certain things. It's a very controlled environment. Don't get confused by the idea of this DevOps continuous deployment thing as thinking, yay, I'm going to get to do all the things. Nuh-uh. A trusted robot army does that for you. You just feed the army. Then you need to prepare for the inevitable sequel. If you start doing this right, bit by bit, guess what? Your code is going to become way more resilient, way more maintainable. It's going to be easier to support. So in the wee hours of the morning, you can actually be sleeping and not going, oh my God, why is there so much traffic on my server? What did I do wrong? If you do this right, people will want you to do it again, and again, and again, and again. And that's a really good skill in a developer. If you become the developer that actually gets this stuff, doesn't claim to be an expert, but gets the foundations, has good practices, has good hygiene, you are going to get some really interesting opportunities to do some really interesting projects. I want you to celebrate successes. Security people never do this. We come on stage and we go, yeah, the world is ending. Yep, this product is broken and this one is broken, and never use this one, and really just don't leave the house. But actually, sometimes we do good things. So the Lambda stack that Adrian talked about earlier is a perfect example of this, right? So back in the old school days of network penetration testing, the idea of a network penetration test is you have multiple connected boxes, and they are there for the long term. It's like an interesting little stepping stone through an environment. They're all connected together. And so what you would try to do is break into one of them, and then once you're inside, you look around for a bit, go, oh, this is very nice, but a bit boring. Where else can I go next? And you skip around the environment to get to the most important thing you can find, which will be a domain controller or a backup server or whatever. Moving to these kind of immutable architectures where we're doing containerized things that only last for a very short period of time destroys this attack vector. You can't do it anymore. You get into a box, that box dies of its own accord in 2 minutes' time. That's high pressure, like nobody is going to be able to deal with this. I'm not saying they're not going to attack you. They're just going to go after your people and stuff instead. But definitely look at these changes you're making as positive things and celebrate that. Don't do it too publicly. Seriously, people see this as a bit of a, yeah, come at me. But amongst yourselves, talk in your teams. We fixed some code today. We made it more secure. Discuss. And then learn when it all goes wrong. So blameless postmortems are one of my favorite things in the entire world, because security postmortems never happen. We're very good at saying it was all Betty's fault, it was all Bob's fault. Just get rid of them, or, lol, I'd never do that with my passwords, and so it's fine. But the reality is that's not helping. You feel secure at the end of it. You feel like you've learned, but you've not learned anything. All you've done is spend a lot of effort disassociating yourself with the problem. It's the same way when our organizations go, I don't need to care about security because like Target and all of those big hacks, they're like giant companies. We're little and no one cares. Yeah, no person cares, but the world is full of automated agents doing this, all of their own accord. Script kiddies are writing Perl scripts that are doing this just for fun. I have a really fun story to learn from mistakes. How many of you have AWS keys anywhere? Yeah, where'd you keep them? GitHub, yeah. Yeah, right? Don't do that, bad idea. But I'll tell you from personal pained experience why. We had a private repo. We have many private repos, and we have a few open. And we get tired, and we are human. Security people don't admit we're human very often, but honest. We flipped one to being open source. We flipped the wrong one to being open source. It had an AWS key in it. It was just a silly project. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just some script I was going to throw away. How long do you think it took to get compromised? 27 minutes. 27 minutes from the repo going open, the AWS box had been popped and was Bitcoin mining. We received an email from Amazon going, hi, look, this might be a career change for you, but this seems a bit strange. And in the next 24 hours, you're going to owe us $3,400, which is awesome. But, we might need to talk. It was slightly more formally worded, but, The reality of being compromised teaches us. When we share our mistakes, when we open up and go, you know what, I'm fallible, we actually get stronger. Go to your meetups and say, this is hard, and I screwed up, and this is how it went wrong, and this is what we did and got better. Because when we do that, we get stronger, not just ourselves, but our community gets stronger. None of you are going to do dumb things with AWS keys in a hurry, I promise you, because $3,400 is a lot of money. And I want you to prepare for the next adventure all of the time. Don't close yourself up to the idea that I currently work on a COBOL system and this doesn't apply. If I have to listen to one more C developer go, I don't need to care about security. We've dealt with buffer overflow. It's not a thing. Seriously, one day, your time will come. You will be creating a Node-based robot. You will be doing Go or Haskell or something else. You will have moved. You will have changed because life changes us. So don't learn for the job you're in now. Learn for the career you want to have. Learn the security skills you can apply all over the place. Don't get tangled up in your languages and frameworks. The world really is a frickin' awful place. It's terrible. I've said frickin' a lot today. It's because I don't want to swear. That's really rude. The world is a scummy, horrible place. Yes, true. Not going to change anytime soon. I think we have a beautiful opportunity as developers to stop being reliant on people like me. I want less people like me in your lives. I want more kick-ass developers doing this for themselves. Because if we do this baseline ourselves, do you know what it makes people like me do? Work a lot harder. I want to have to work really, really hard to do bad things to nice people. And that's going to start with you lot. So make me work for it. Make the rest of the world work for it. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions?
So hypothetical professional services organisation has a lot of clients, many of whom say, oh, we don't need to worry that much about security. We don't have any important data. It'll be fine. Nobody cares about us. We're just small. Is there a point at which you should just sort of cut them loose and let them fail, or should you try and beat that drum a bit more?
My favourite tactic for this, and I would not really recommend other people do it without, making sure they can't get fired quickly, is I see boards a lot, and boards are very keen on this. We've managed our risk, we've accepted it, we understand. What does that even mean, really? Anyway, make them write the letter to their customers that says, our servers were compromised, and we don't know what went. We don't know how long ago the compromise happened. And at this point, we don't know how long it will take to restore services. Now, for most organizations, you'll have wounded some pretty big egos at that point. And they may actually politely ask you to leave. But sometimes you have to be brutal with this message. Sure, yes, you've got an insurance policy. I'm sure it was very expensive and you feel good. Is it going to save your organization from being on the front page of the paper? No. So do I care? Not really. Do I care that you're compliant with the framework? No, I absolutely do not care, because it was well scoped and well defined, and it's a tricksy game of magic at that point. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Anything else?
You're talking about two-factor authentication being the kind of go-to. Pretty much every time I turn on 2FA, the recommendation is, here's the recovery codes, write them down and print them and put them somewhere.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
This will sound facetious. It's not. Actually print them. Don't stick them in your Dropbox. Put them somewhere safe. Safe places, I mean real safe places, not in the back of your cupboard in a notepad you think nobody knows about. That's the best solution to these is, the old school, having briefcases and, the things that are separate and in the real world, not in the logical world. The other thing is, a lot of these mechanisms, it takes a long time to get to the point where you'd need a recovery code. There's normally okay, you can't get in via 2FA, can we now ring you on your phone? Can we text you? Can we ask your mother? So a lot of the time, you don't need to keep all of them. You kind of have to find the balance. Judge the system you're trying to protect. Consider physical storage. Having a safe at home is just good practice anyway. Put your passports in it, have something fireproof. You can stick your recovery codes in there. That also helps, and to be the horrible morbid person in the room, I may as well have been the criminal anyway. Life is a very fragile thing. And it may be the case that somebody has to access your account in a circumstance you wouldn't like. So having it in the real world, in a physical sense, can actually help pass your details on to other people in a time where you may not be able to physically reach them yourself, if that makes sense, without me being morbid. Yeah, don't die, it's hard. Anything else? If not, I will be loitering in the middly bit. I'm generally an approachable person. Yeah, awesome.